All right, everybody. How are we doing today? Welcome back to the Robbie Basel show. I know this was not, well, two things. One, I know this is not the lighting you expected, but it is too hot to literally put the light on. And I also want to try out this lighting. So it might be a little, not the greatest camera quality, but that's just the way it is. Additionally, today's video was supposed to be the Premier League season recap video. About that. We are still doing the video, but it's gonna be a bit delayed. So we recorded it, we're tempted to record it on Tuesday, and the Riverside, which is what we're using to record this, crashed. Well, the Wi-Fi crashed along with this about an hour and a half into recording. So we will have to redo the whole video. So that video I think is gonna be next. I'm not 100% sure. You will see that video next week. I believe it will be Tuesday's video, so you will not see a recap of some of the stuff that we are talking about today, possibly until Friday, or maybe not even at all. So, um, once again, that's just an update on that stuff. And that video, of course, is the Premier League. Like I mentioned, the Premier League season recap. It's me. It's the Dylan Shalom. We recorded it on Tuesday. It went to shit, and we already got demonetized. Beautiful. And essentially, we have to do it again. We're recording it tomorrow after I ref some tournament soccer games, which is gonna be awesome. Um, but what we will do in today's video, we have the NBA playoffs. We have the the Stanley Cup playoffs, which had an awesome game one last night. We'll talk about the whole Edmonton Dallas game from last night in a little while, as well as F1. This is the biggest week in Formula One. It is the Monaco GP. It's back. Who is ready for the only day of eventfulness to be on Saturday? And we'll talk about the whole thing later in the video. And for those who are asking, I will be talking Major League Baseball probably next week. And also next week, we have some international games to talk about. So we'll be breaking down Africa and Asia continental World Cup qualifiers? I don't even know anymore. Yeah, no, yes, it is World Cup qualifying. That happens in the beginning of next month. So who is ready for me to talk about like Kyrgyzstan again? GG's to that idea. We will be talking about Kyrgyzstan again, but that's not the soccer we'll be talking about first. We have to break down how the Prem ended. So we had Brentford get absolutely battered by Newcastle, which just signals how bad of a season that Brentford had. They did not have a good season. They didn't have Ivan Toney half the year, and he really wasn't that great. We don't know if he will stay at Brentford. We will find that out hopefully soon. Manchester United picking up a big result against Brighton, trying to give them some momentum into the FA Cup final, which will be what we will be talking about right after this. Additionally, we had Forest. They already sealed their safety, but they went out and beat Burnley 2-1. A Burnley team that just went out and died because their manager, after getting relegated, just got signed by Bayern. Vincent Kompany will be the next manager of Bayern, and this will not be the first time I talk about this topic in the next couple of videos, because Dylan will be addressing this as well, and we'll get his thoughts on this. What? Like, okay, you get relegated with the Burnley, and you get hired by Bayern. Sure, that works. Nothing's making any sense. I'll tease even more managerial news at your face. Chelsea have sacked Pochettino after beating Bournemouth and finishing in a Europa League spot. Nothing in this sport makes any goddamn sense. Why? Why? The weirdness continues with Crystal Palace beating Aston Villa 5-0. As Crystal Palace team that decided to play competent football, led by a hat trick by Jean-Philippe Mateta, a player I will be highlighting in the next video, and a brace in the possible final game of Eberechi Eze, who, like his former counterpart winger in Wilfried Zaha, will have tried to possibly be sold for a lot of money, and most teams probably won't bite for it. Him and Elise may have played their final match for Palace. But Palace finished 10th. We'll talk about the standings in a minute. Liverpool in the final game of You'll Never Walk Alone, the final playing of it for now, under Klopp, they went out and beat Wolves. Fulham beat Luton. They just went out and died. And Sheffield played like Sheffield and lost to Spurs 3-0. Now, the title race was decided pretty fast. And what I mean by pretty fast is a span of about 17 minutes. What am I talking about? 18 minutes. We opened with Phil Foden scoring in 90 seconds, which is impressive, that. And then he scored again to just kill every Arsenal fan. Phil Foden, early brace, essentially took every bit of life out of Arsenal within, I would say, about 18 minutes. Kudus then had the greatest goal, one of the best, had the goal of the week, with some scissor kick nonsense to make it 2-1 and give everyone false hope. Unfortunately, Rodri does not like false hope and just wanted to throw a spear into the side of every Arsenal fan and seal the deal. While that was going on, Arsenal decided to play terrible again and went down to Everton. Gouye scored the opener off a deflection, went up 1-0. Takahiro Tomiyasu equalized, because that makes sense. And then Kai Havertz, after a mistake in the back from Everton, scored the winner. Arsenal won, but as City would say, Arsenal won, but I don't give a shit. I'm just going to go out and win a match. I know I'm cursing a lot. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. It's just for the theme here. Arsenal win 2-1, but it doesn't matter, as Man City are your Premier League champions for the 4th time in a row. They deserve it. They were the best team in the Prem. Arsenal, I'll give my quick thoughts on them now. They tried and failed. They have to add more. And that's just how it's going to have to be. It's just a pay-to-win sport now in the Premier League. This Arsenal team had no real striker. Their striker was Kai Havertz, and he did a serviceable job. I'll give Kai Havertz the benefit of the doubt here. I mean, he had a lot of big moments. But at the same time, as we'll take a look at the final table now, the margins between the two teams, from a down year for City when they only won 28 matches, put up 96. Somehow, Man City still scored more goals than Arsenal. But the form at the end of the year, Arsenal slipped up earlier against Aston Villa, and City, I don't think, lost a game after January. When you're playing a team in that form, you have to expect the worst. And unfortunately, Arsenal got what was coming for them, and they went out and finished second by 2 points. Despite having the best defense in the Premier League by 5 goals, Arsenal finished second once again. The frustrations for them continue, as let's look at this real quick, chat. Who did Arsenal lose to? This is a brilliant question, because I love this conversation. Look how bad the teams they lost to were. For reference, they did not lose a match to the top 6. Hold on, I'm trying to figure this out. I forgot how to do this. Okay. And we'll scroll down to Arsenal. Arsenal lost games. We know how they ended the year. Let's go all the way to the bottom. They kicked it off. They won a lot of games. They drew Fulham. That's not the last time we'll be talking about Fulham today. They dropped points to Chelsea. They just dropped points to Tottenham. Great comeback to draw this game, by the way, because they didn't deserve it. They won a lot, and then they lost to Villa, which was terrible. John McGinn apparently is the Arsenal's dad now, which makes no sense, because John McGinn didn't do anything in the other game. They lost to West Ham United 2-0, and then lost to Fulham. This team is special. I'm serious, chat, because think about it. No one in their right mind would come here and go out and lose after going up early to Fulham. A team in the God damn it. In the first recording, we destroyed Fulham for their terrible attack. Well, apparently it's good enough to score 4 goals in 2 matches against Arsenal, because they got 4 points against Arsenal? That's your 4 points. Is just being able to beat Fulham. Arsenal got the revenge against West Ham, and it was the greatest game of all time. Then they beat Burnley, and they did all this nonsense. They beat Sheffield 6-0, but we knew that was going to happen. That's fine. They drew City. They were playing for the draw. This can't happen. You cannot go out and lose twice to Villa. I know Villa had a great season, but you cannot go out and tell me that Arsenal should not score a goal against Aston Villa. They put up 91 goals, the second highest in the league. They don't, and they lost both games. If they take one against Aston Villa, that's the difference. But let's look at my shocking teams of the season. Team of the season. Time for some awards. Well, actually, we have some awards next time. We get to roast Sandro Tonali again. The surprise team of the season, in terms of being bad, is Brentford. It's not Burnley. It's not Luton. Brentford. I projected them to finish in 9th. But all this team did was just disappoint. They were pretty much hovering, if you look at this graph here, because I like graphs. After, I would say game week 11, when they beat West Ham, they never got higher than 11th again. And they were stuck at 16th after match week 32. It was pretty much over for them. And they barely survived. I say barely. They did survive. But yeah, they didn't really deserve. They did survive by 13 points. But that team really underperformed this season. Another team I think underperformed. Where are they? That's all I'm going to say on that one. The negative 69 goal difference. Nice. Additionally, Burnley were disappointing. I thought they were going to stay up. They were my team to stay up out of the Premier League this year. Unfortunately, Vincent Kompany does not prevail enough. Fortunately for him, it gets the job at Bayern. Because once again, that whole story makes complete sense to absolutely no one. The surprise team of the season is Crystal Palace. They were dead to rights under Roy Hodgson. But look what this team did at the end of this season. This run, they beat Liverpool. They beat Newcastle. They beat West Ham. They draw Fulham, which apparently Fulham's inevitable. They beat United. They beat Wolves, and they beat Villa to finish in 10th. A team that's been inevitable to finish 14th to 16th in this area, 13th to 16th, right here, went out and finished in 10th. Now, I don't know if this has saved them from probably losing Eze and Elise, one or both of them. But what I do know is that this is probably one of the best seasons, if not the best season, that Crystal Palace have ever had in their history, and they finished in 10th. This isn't I'll just bring up another league reference here, because I don't talk about the German league at all. This is like their version of Bayer Leverkusen. Like Bayer Leverkusen in the German league won their first ever league title. They went unbeaten. They did all this crazy stuff. This is going to sound really bad. That was their best season of all time. And in comparison, this is their best season of all time, which is really sad for Palace. But they had a new manager. They played really good ball. And they deserved to finish in 10th in the end. Chelsea, another surprise team here. For obvious reasons. They played like crap. But after match week 23, when they lost to Wolves 4-2 on February 4th, they lost one match. They went out. They beat Palace. They drew City. They drew Brentford, which is absurd. They beat Newcastle. They draw Burnley. See, here's what makes no sense. They could draw Brentford and Burnley and Newcastle. Right? No, they drew City. They draw Brentford and Burnley. They beat Newcastle. I can read. They beat United. They drew This team has drawn Sheffield, Brentford, and Burnley and finished in 6th. Nothing is making any sense. Here we are. Chelsea in 6th. Fair enough. Aston Villa is another one. They only finished 2 points ahead of Spurs, but they were safe until the final day because Spurs went out, and Spurs couldn't win a game down the stretch. They lost 3 of 5, including games to City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. They can't beat a top team. They deserve to finish in 5th. They did, however, beat Burnley and Sheffield, which gives them the consolation prize of probably getting absolutely annihilated in the Europa League again. But let's see. Arsenal, Liverpool, they were disappointing. You Never Walk Alone is might be gone. I don't know if they're gonna sing that song still. I know Dortmund might, but I haven't watched the Dortmund game in a while. Speaking of Dortmund, we will talk about them next week when they play in the Champions League final. The Champions League final is next week. But that is all we'll be talking about the Prem for now. We're gonna go team by team breakdown next week. I won't show a graphic for this, but it is also the weekend of the FA Cup final, which finally, Manchester United against City. I'll just talk about this briefly. City should manhandle Manchester United. They should. United doesn't have a center back. United has had no real sense of attack throughout the entire season. They've had no consistency. City won the league. They're going for the inevitable to have more. They want more silverware under Pep. Which, speaking of Pep, it might be that this season might have been his second to last season as in charge of City. And, well, I think they're going to batter United. My score prediction is 3-0 because I am not saying it's going to be 5-0 or whatever. Some people said 5-0, which I thought was absurd. But United's defense against some of the better teams has not been that terrible, as well as their goal scoring. Hasn't been that bad. But I just want to bring this up. Another content creator, Zealand, who I watch too much apparently, brought up a great point on one of his channels yesterday. And there was a match between Tottenham and Newcastle in Australia this week. Tottenham. I mean, they didn't. I don't think they bottled it in Australia, which is kind of odd. But they didn't bottle it down under. That makes perfect sense. But he brought up a great point, and I'll bring it up real quick. It's the amount of matches that teams play. And he brought up a point where, Son declined to talk to the media. You don't usually see that out of a guy like Youngman's Son. But it wasn't really Son's fault. The issue that Z brought up was the amount of matches that teams play. Like, Son is going to go play multiple matches for Korea in the summer. You're going to see players like Mbappe play, I have no idea, up to... Think of the tournament itself, you could possibly see him play over a dozen matches if he plays on the Olympic national team. You could see players, Haaland didn't make anything, so he's fine. Of course he could be fine, but you could see Ronaldo play a dozen matches. You could see Ruben Dias play over a dozen matches, and that's a problem because these players actually do need time to rest. They're human beings. The fact that you could be seeing some guys play over 60 matches a year, including these pointless friendlies. Listen, go throw some youth academy players on the pitch and do that. Because, listen, the Premier League, the people who run this thing don't care about player safety that much. Because, he brought up this point too, Z did yesterday. We want to scrap FA Cup replays. This is fixture congestion. This is BS. Go, bro, F off. Like, seriously. What the hell are these point of these friendlies? It's about lining your own pockets as teams. Think about it. The Premier League only cares about the teams at the top without caring whatsoever for the teams in the lower divisions. That's why you see the big financial gaps between, Brentford and who's coming up, Ipswich Town. Sure. Like, you'll see a big financial gap between the two. That's why you will see a big financial gap between Luton somehow, and like Portsmouth maybe. I don't know. Trying to name some random teams here. That's just the way the game is. The Premier League, the people who run it, in short, only care about lining up their own pockets and playing pointless matches with players that they want to throw out on the field. Like, I just don't know how a player like Son can just say, screw you now. Because I don't want to go to, Australia right after finishing a season. I feel even worse for Newcastle because they had to play multiple matches. They played against the A-League All-Stars yesterday. I don't even know how it went. But that's my rant of the day. Rant of the day. Tomfoolery at its finest. But let us get to what we're talking about next, and that is the NBA playoffs. Now, just for reference, I might be bringing in a guest for the Stanley Cup Finals. Hopefully, you guys are possibly intrigued by that. I might be asking some people to join me to break down the Stanley Cup Finals. But let us go to the conference finals and how we got here. So, in short, the New York Knicks predictably bottled it, which made me very happy. They lost to the Pacers by a lot and got eliminated. And then the Pacers, we'll talk about their series in a minute. So, Celtics and the Pacers. On the flip side, Minnesota defeated the Denver Nuggets to advance to the conference finals, and they would be playing Dallas, who, by possibly due to ref ball, have advanced to the conference finals. So how's these series gone so far? We'll talk about the series that's 2-0 in favor of the Boston Celtics. And the thing I've learned from this is that Indiana cannot play defense within the last 20 seconds. Because if you really think about it, Indiana should have won Game 1. But unfortunately, due to Rick Carlisle's incompetence, here we are. With Indiana being 2-0 down when it really should be 1-1. Now listen, I'll give full credit to Indiana. They were staying in Game 1. They did a lot of things right. They were doing everything they could to stay in this situation where they had a chance to go out and win a game. Unfortunately, turnovers came back to haunt them, and I was really rooting for the Pacers. Unfortunately, Jaylen Brown had a problem with the lead that the Pacers had, and he hit a game-tying shot with like 3 seconds left, and we went to overtime, and Boston won in overtime because the Pacers could not hit a shot in overtime. So here we are again with the Celtics, with the team leading the Pacers 2-0. Now, hopefully the Celtics learn from the Knicks and win a road playoff game, but the Knicks were terrible, so they went out and lost to the Pacers. I'm expecting Boston to probably take care of this in like 5 games. They looked really good. I will say that they looked really good in Game 2. You gotta admit they looked really good. But that's because they just have better players on the court. And if you go matchup for matchup, you would have to believe, for the most part, that Boston, of course, is going to have better players than Indiana, but sometimes it's a sizable margin. Like, you would pick Jaylen Brown over Andrew Nembhard. Tyrese Halliburton is worse than Jason Tatum. I think that's pretty obvious. But then the list goes on and on and on. Boston deserved to win Game 2. I don't think either team deserved to win Game 1 because Boston was playing down to the Pacers. The real statement will need to be made tomorrow. If Boston wins, the series is over. Indiana is not winning 4 in a row. So, what did Indiana have to do? They have to defend much better. Listen, it sounds easy. Okay, it does sound easy, but what did we learn from the first 2 games against the Knicks? Indiana went out and really stepped up defensively in the last 5 games-ish. I think we could possibly see something similar, but not to the level of, they're winning this series. I think this is the Celtics series to lose. I think a lot of people would have said that from the start, but don't be surprised if the Celtics come out and drop a game or two, especially upcoming when they head to Indianapolis. I think Indiana wins Game 3 and then loses Game 4. That would be my prediction for that. Indiana has to win at least 1 game. That just makes sense. And it would give them a lot of momentum heading into Game 4 if they win, to give them a chance to win Game 3. I'm going to say that the narrative will be very similar to the Knicks one, where the Pacers will be extremely resilient. I think they're going to win Game 3. It's going to be close, but I have Boston winning this year. I did not expect Boston to be going this far. I had Milwaukee out of the East and Denver out of the West, and both of them are eliminated. But listen, what can you do? We ride with our predictions. Listen, I'll admit I was wrong. I did not expect Boston to. Injuries hurt Milwaukee, and no one really stepped up, because in these situations you need guys to step up when you need them. And Dallas kind of did that. Now, Dallas went out and won Game 1 in Minneapolis, which is a phenomenal result. Let's take a look at the box score. Because we like, for games like this, we like to look at the box score. Game 1, we got stats. There we go. The big player from Game 1 was Jaden McDaniels. Not this ad. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Was Jaden McDaniels. You had Jaden McDaniels. Anthony Edwards. Gobert defended much better. Naz Reid. Karl Anthony Towns. Listen, Mike Conley might not be doing anything, but at least he's distributing the ball decently well. The big player I'm going to be watching out for, other than Anthony Edwards, is if Jaden McDaniels can continue to give that production, the production levels that they're going to need in order to have a chance. You're going to need those step-ups from Gobert, possibly on the offensive side. Karl Anthony Towns can't be shooting 6 for 20 if you think you're going to win a game in this series. Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the bench can't be 1 for 6. Mike Conley needs to be a little bit better in terms of efficiency. Take it up from 2 to 7, maybe to 4 to 7. So it sounds easy enough, but Anthony Edwards, you could argue he needs to be better. 6 for 16 in the first game. That's not that good. So I think that would be one thing just to watch out for. But same with Dallas. Listen, they weren't big shot makers either. Luka Doncic under 50%. Kyrie Irving barely over 50%. PJ Washington down game, but Kyrie had 30, Luka had 33. But they only had 4 double-digit scores, and that's what I'm going to be watching out for from Dallas. What depth scoring comes out here and wins Dallas the series? Because we know of the high-end talent of both of these teams. The depth is going to make the difference. Do we see continuation of play from Derek Jones, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington? We know what PJ Washington elevating his game more and more and more. The former Charlotte Hornet has looked great with the Dallas Mavericks. I'm watching out, though, for Derek Lively because he's been great. Him and Derek Jones have been awesome, but both of them, I think, need to step it up a little bit more in order to ensure Dallas wins this series. Those are just some things to watch out for. Game 1 was awesome. Game 2 is tonight. I'm going to go with the Timberwolves for Game 3. Game 2, excuse me, tonight. And then I'm going to have Dallas win Game 3. So I would expect to come back here in a couple of days on Tuesday. Actually, we can't even talk about the game on Tuesday, but yeah, I'm expecting to go at least to Game 6. If I had to give a guess here, I had originally wrote it down as Minnesota in 6, but I honestly, I don't know. I think the series is going to be really balanced, but tonight's game, extremely important. Sunday's game, even more important, because if Dallas wins all the first 3, it's over for everyone else. But yeah, the conference finals, I have it as Minnesota against Boston. If you had to give me a guess, I would say the higher seeds, both of them should make it. So I would have the Timberwolves going up against the Boston Celtics in the final. All right, so I will now load up the Stanley Cup playoffs because, oh wow, what a weird bit of playoff action that we have here. What do we have here? Oh wait, some teams didn't bottle it, and I'm very happy to say what these teams were. So, last time we were here, we knew about what the Rangers were doing, and we knew the struggle that Boston was in. We also knew about the Avs possibly losing to the Dallas Stars and the chaos in Canada. Let's go over the bracket. We will start it off with our friends in Florida. They went out and took care of business, and they deserved to take care of business. As we'll scroll down, Florida went out and won Game 6 by a score of 2-1. After Game 3, every game was decided by 1 goal. It was a perfect way to end this series, back and forth all the way, but in the end, the Florida Panthers took the series. I know that could have been a better way to word it, but they took 4 of the last 5 to win this series in 6 games. Last Friday night was insanity. Listen, we didn't know. I thought this was going to go to Game 7. Would have made Sunday even more crazy. But listen, anything is possible. and the Florida Panthers are going back to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you know it's really cool to see because listen, Florida last year, if you remember, no one expected Florida to be there to begin with. Well, they made moves in recent years to get them to this spot because we haven't seen a Florida team this good, I think, in at least a decade. But Florida is back on the really got themselves back on the map, and they're doing it by beating a big team like the Boston Bruins, a disappointing Boston Bruins team who I had in the Stanley Cup final. Next up, we'll be going to Dallas, and they went out and beat the Colorado Avalanche in 6 games to advance to the conference finals. This was even more chaos. So I was going to stream this, but then I decided not to. Dallas went to double overtime with Colorado in Game 6, and I said Colorado was going to win, but Dallas went out and like, yeah, not so fast, buddy. And Dallas, like Florida, took at least 3 of the last 4. They took 4 of the last 5 as well to win it in 6 games. A double overtime thriller with early into the second overtime, a late winner for Dallas. They went out and won the series, which set them going up in the conference finals against Edmonton. So I got the West completely right so far, which is absurd. We know how the series was going. And then Saturday, Edmonton took it to Vancouver. Edmonton won 5-1. It wasn't close. Game 7, Edmonton were up by multiple goals late. But then Vancouver, let's go into the game center. This will be the game we take a deep dive into. So, what happened? And we will talk about all of the goals that happened. And let us look at the goals. So, we opened it up with a goal by Cody Ceci, the literal pylon, because he doesn't do anything, scored the opener. Then Zach Hyman, quickly afterwards, grabbed a second. Then Nugent Hopkins made it 3 right at the end of the second period. And then we all thought it was over. But Connor Garland started the trend with 8 minutes to go, scoring and unassisted. Then Philip Horneck, who has done basically nothing who did nothing the whole series, went out, scored again. But unfortunately, Vancouver ran out of time. And the big thing that I want to watch out for is the shots on goal number. 13-2, 5-2. What are those periods? That's why the second period was fun. Edmonton deserved to win by more than 1. I think they should have won by 3-0. But they let their guard down. We thought it was going to be very similar to Game 1. Because if you remember from Game 1, we'll take a look at it right now for you guys. Edmonton blew a 4-1 lead against Vancouver in Game 1. But then Edmonton returned the favor and won Game 7. So it really didn't matter. But home ice has not really been a big factor. And we learned that a little bit last night. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals was madness. We opened it up quickly with 2 extremely early goals by Edmonton. But a brace from Tyler Seguin leveled our match. And we went to overtime. Let's break down what happened in overtime. Early penalty by Connor McDavid. Double minor, a 4-minute power play. Dallas can't score. But Edmonton had chances with just minutes to go with a Connor McDavid open net. But a big save. Let's look at the game center as well for this. A ginormous save with just minutes to go in the first overtime. Advanced us to double OT. And then 32 seconds into double overtime, we had our winner by the aforementioned Connor McDavid. Oh, what a night last night was. It was perfect. It was Draisaitl and Hyman, and then braced by Seguin. But Connor McDavid, just seconds into double overtime, got us to where we were. And listen, if you have to give me some players, something to watch out for the rest of the series, it's the goaltending. Oh my God, the goaltending was magnificent. Jake Ottinger. Oh, what a night for him. He was the one who had the save on Connor McDavid. Brings his stick up, it's off his stick. Massive save with just minutes to go. That would have ended the game, but like Wayne Gretzky said last night, he should have I mean, Edmonton McDavid should have just kept it on the ice instead of trying to lift the puck, because that's a free tap in for McDavid if he keeps it on the ice. But he hesitates, and well, there you go. We went to double overtime, but a McDavid tap in from a hustle play by Nugent Hopkins and Evan Bouchard won the game for Edmonton. And Edmonton goes up by 1-0. But who will they possibly be playing? Well, they will be playing either Florida or the Rangers. And, well, to a lot of people's surprise, Florida took it to the Rangers. And Florida deserved to take it to the Rangers. You know why? Because, well, Florida had a goal disallowed, but listen, they had goal scorers. They had Kachuk. They had Carter Verhaeghe. Sam Bennett. There was an own goal. I think that might have been credited to Bennett. Florida deserved to win by more goals than this. I think it could have been 4. I think it could have been 5. But the Rangers also may have deserved to score a goal on this, but no one really did anything. And offensively, defensively, Shesterkin was okay. Big night from Bobrovsky. He was one of the big reasons Florida won as well. An overall team effort by Florida. Got it done in Game 1, and they'll head to Game 2 tonight. And I think this should go to the New York Rangers, but listen, at this rate, nothing is safe. Oh, what a night it would be for Florida to take go of 2-0, because they're not losing any. I don't think they're losing this game on Sunday. On a Sunday afternoon, oh, what a time it could be for Florida. But I don't think you should hang your hats just yet on the Rangers, because this Rangers team has a lot of talent. You talk about Kreider, Panarin, just to name a couple. They have really strong. They're really strong in the defensive core. They have Shesterkin and net. They have a lot of good wingers, centers. This team is loaded. They won a President's Trophy for a reason. But don't rest on your laurels for Florida either. They have a lot of talent. If I had to give a prediction, I'd say Florida in 7, or Florida in 6. But I would not expect. I've counted out the Rangers twice already. Okay, third time's a charm where I could count them out and they probably could be eliminated. But listen, I've never had really faith in the President's Trophy winners, and you really shouldn't typically. But what a night it could be for Florida tonight. Sunrise could be up 2-0 on the Rangers. But my prediction is the Rangers winning by a score of 3-1 tonight. They find their goal-scoring touch, and they go out and they beat Florida. That would be my expectation. To round off today's episode, like we do with a lot of things here, we get to talk about Formula 1. And it's kind of funny that I'm wearing this Ferrari shirt, because last week we were at Emilia-Romagna. And, well, we'll load up the race real quick here. We were at, of course, Emilia-Romagna. And the race result was absurd. We had Max Verstappen win, but it got so close down the stretch to a gap of only 7/10 for Lando Norris. We thought he was going to do it again. But Max and the Red Bull said not so fast. But the latter end of the stint on the hard tire almost costed Max. But Max comes out and wins the race, followed by Lando and Leclerc, Oscar and Carlos. So the Ferraris and McLarens offset each other. Then it's the two Mercs. Sergio Perez down here in 8th. The European stretch is going to hurt Perez possibly again. Lance Stroll getting 2 big points for Aston Martin, and another point week for the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, with Yuki Tsunoda grabbing 10th position. Albon was out early. Alonso was 19th. Logan Sargent 17th. Hello. He beat his teammate again, and he beat a 2-time world champion. And he beat a many-time race winner in Valtteri Bottas. Unfortunately, he could not beat Zhou Guanyu, but listen, you can't get everything in life. The disappointment this weekend's Danny Rick. I thought he was going to do better than 13th, but listen, what can you do? Mercedes are still off the pace by a considerable mark, and I'm interested to see what they do this week. Because where are we this week, guys? We are in Monaco. Oh, what a time to be alive. Monaco. And how have we done so far in the free practice? Before we lead to my predictions for the Grand Prix de Monaco. What's it called? Grand Prix de Monaco 2024. FP1 and FP2 are basically irrelevant because nothing makes sense. Hamilton was first, which is okay. Then Hamilton did it again. So, what am I expecting for this? If you have never watched the Monaco Grand Prix before, I don't know why my camera flipped. Let's go to here. If you've never watched this before, let me give you some insight. Saturday is the day you want to watch because that's when qualifying is. You want to watch qualifying for this thing because the race is usually pretty terrible. Because with the way the modern F1 cars are, not much usually happens in the race other than at the first corner. So, what are my expectations? My predictions. My pole sitter is Max again. I have Max on pole, then Hamilton and Leclerc. I don't have Leclerc finishing on the podium, though. My final three at the top, we'll close this tab. In the end, I'm going to have it as Verstappen wins the Monaco Grand Prix, then Hamilton, so we go back to 2021-ish times, and then I'm going to go with Lando Norris again. But don't be surprised if Fernando Alonso is up there. Don't be surprised if George Russell, Oscar Piastri is up there. And don't be surprised, of course, if Leclerc or Sainz make a lot of noise. I think 8 to 9 people will be in the running to possibly win this. But really, it's all going to come down to where you qualify, because qualifying here is possibly more important than qualifying at any other track. Because if you start P1, you will most likely end up with a good pit stop P1. Enjoy the weekend of sports. Also, some events to watch out for. The Indy 500 is this week. I don't know a lot about IndyCar, but I will be watching the Indy 500. Major League Baseball is total chaos. We'll talk about that next week. Dylan comes back. EPL video coming soon. And much more on international ball as the next 2 months we will be diving in to the Copa America, Euros, Olympics, all of that and more in coming videos. But today, that's all we have time for. As for now, I'm Robbie Basel saying so long. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Memorial Day. See you guys Tuesday. Goodbye, everyone.